Bienvenidos to Conversaciones con Alpha New Jersey podcast. Each episode, I, Vanessa Schwippert, will be interviewing different Latinas or allies to share their experiences so that our listeners can be in community with us and hopefully learn a thing or two. Enjoy. Hi, Dr. Ginny. How are you?
Hi, Vanessa. I'm doing great. How's it going?
Pretty good. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, the Conversaciones con Alpha New Jersey. Welcome.
Thank you. I am super excited.
Amazing. I want to start with how do you pronounce your name? Because I hear a lot of Dr. Jeannie, Dr. Ginny. So I just want to clear the air and I want to know how you would like to be called.
Now, I don't want anyone to get any ideas, but I tell people my name is Dr. Ginny Baro. Ginny like gin and tonic.
Yes. That has helped me too, thinking of, okay, gin, Ginny, and like obviously not for alcohol purposes, but yeah,
Yes, exactly.
thank
So
you.
you can call me Dr. Ginny. That's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So, the first thing that I do with all of the guests is I review your bio and then I ask you how you feel about it, just to give our listeners a
Yeah.
sense of who you are.
Sounds great.
Amazing. So, you immigrated to the US from the Dominican Republic at age 14 with nothing more than a dream. Today, you are an award winning international transformational speaker, leadership coach, career strategist, and #1 bestselling author of Healing Leadership and Fearless Women at Work. You joined the Alpha New Jersey board in January 2024 as Director of Board Development, where you leverage over 30 years of experience and your expertise to help all members, including myself, reach their full leadership potential. You earned a PhD in Information Systems and MS in Computer Science from NJIT and completed an M in Management and a BA in Computer Science and Economics from Rutgers University. Wow.
Yes.
Yes. So how does that make you feel? How does hearing your bio make you feel?
I was taking a walk this morning and I'm always listening to something. I'm listening to a podcast. Creating Spaces is a great one that I listen to often with Hoda Kotb. And she brings on a lot of authors and, just people, public figures, people who all of us admire in some way or another. And when I'm listening to these authors and these figures and listen to their stories and their backgrounds, I'm always so amazed. Like I'm in awe of them. And when I looked at my own life as I was listening to the story of this lady that I was listening to, Nicole Avant, who had illustrious parents, I thought to myself, you know, what is my life about? Like, what can I say that I've contributed, that I've done in the world, that I made it a little better than how I found it? And I think that when I listen to my bio, what comes to mind immediately is that I am, in a way, leaving a legacy and that I am honoring my parents. I am honoring my roots. I'm honoring the opportunity that I received when I came to the US as a 14-year-old. And I never really saw it this way as I am being reverent to this life that my mom, who was a single mom, provided for me. And anything that I do from this point forward and that I've done since I came to this country has really been in service of the life that she fought so hard to give me.
I'm amazing. I think that resonates with me and also our listeners as well. I think that it's very important for us as we navigate being in the United States that we really bring our culture and our heritage with us as we progress. And I mean, you're so accomplished just with these degrees and everything that you're doing, empowering all these women. It's the main reason why I wanted you here is because having you on the board and seeing how you speak power into other people. And so I that's basically one of the first questions that I have for you today is how do you like what brought you to this point to dedicate your life to empowering people in the workplace?
So I'm
Empowering
humbled.
women in the
Yeah, I'm
workplace.
humbled by your comments, Vanessa, and I want to say thank you first of all. And like anyone who starts out as a child of an immigrant or a child who is living in the poverty line, quite frankly, even though we were never poor, because I think poor is an implication that you are poor in your soul. And I don't think anybody who's poor is poor in soul. They're rich in character, they're rich in work ethic. Their economic circumstances, as society says, we're poor, but I never believed I was poor, right? I always believed I was didn't have the economic resources as others. And so when I look back at where I started from and the desire, the dream, like when you were reading my bio, you said Ginny came to the US with at 14 with nothing more than a dream. My dream, top dream, was to break the cycle of poverty, because I came from a family that I never starved. We had a roof over our heads. We were actually considered the better off people in the village where I grew up. Hello, the standard was really low, right?
Yes.
And so we were never hungry. We always had clothing and shoes in our feet, which is not the case for many people around the world. But that dream of breaking the cycle of poverty and then ultimately using education as my gateway to get out of that poverty line, and knowing that I had to make it on my own, that my parents couldn't give me the money to go to college or the money to start my practice or the money to do anything, that it was up to me. And that thankfully, in the society that we live in, if you work hard, if you study, if you get scholarships, if you get grants, if you get loans, you can go to school, given that, all the other things that could potentially get in the way, like your immigration status and things of that nature. So after spending all those years going through high school learning English, then going to school, graduating with a college with a degree in computer science and economics, and starting my career as a professional woman, that was my dream come true. And then I set my sights into, oh, I want to become a leader. And then spending the next 26 years of my career in different tranches of the organization in leadership roles where I was the only woman, the only Latina, the only Hispanic, all of that. It was humbling to me to have this incredible opportunity and have incredible mentors and sponsors, Rich and Mike, and all these people who really elevated me and supported my career. So then, when I was at a crossroads where my son was, I believe at the time, he was only like 7. And I got divorced when he was 3, and I had to make a decision in 2016 about where do I take my career from where I am right now in the situation that I find myself in. I launched into my own business, and I make that decision purposely because I wanted to live a life of meaning, and I loved my career in technology. And I want to tell every woman and person who's listening to this podcast today that if you want a lucrative, really exciting, where you're going to be learning a lot type of career, and you're going to meet a lot of people that are really smart and who are doing great things, go into a STEM field, because I absolutely love my career in STEM, in technology and financial services, all my career. And then I was at a point at 47 where I said, this is it. If I want to start in my own business, I don't think the runway is going to get any clearer for me. So I said, I'm going to start my own business. And then the question was, well, as a coach, what are you going to focus on? And I thought, well, I've been a leader for over 20 years. How can I give back to that community? How can I help organizations develop their leaders and their female leaders so they can advance to senior leadership roles like I did? And so I was my own role model, because there were very few role models for me to witness in the corporate world, in technology, in financial services, double whammy. And so that's what I do today. It is a pleasure for me to walk into a room to meet leaders like you and rising stars like you and all of our board members, and support you by giving you some guidance, giving you some coaching, helping you, asking you empowering questions that you can ponder and reflect on and say, what's really important to me right now? And what skills do I have, so that you know your strengths and you have confidence and squash the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome, and also realize I have a lot to learn and a long way to go, from a place of growth, not from a place of scarcity or I'm not enough.
Right, right. I hear a lot of passion. I hear a lot of fulfillment in what you're saying, because another question that I have is, I went to school, I graduated, I was a teacher for 5, 6 years, and I felt like that wasn't enough. Like I checked all the boxes, yeah, I didn't buy a house, yeah, I wasn't married, I don't have any children, but I feel like, in my mid 20s, I was like, I already checked off all these boxes and I'm still not fulfilled. I still don't feel complete. And because of that, it made me start to question, like, what can I do to feel
Mhm.
complete and feel more fulfilled? And so I'm curious for you. I think you mentioned 20 years ago was when you decided to go into leadership. What got you into that? Was it that sense of emptiness that I felt
Mhm.
when I was 25, or was
Mhm.
it you've mentioned divorce, and I think you speak about it very openly and
I
very
do.
positively, which I definitely want to get into that in a minute, but I'm
Good.
curious, like, what made you check off all these amazing boxes and then continue to check more boxes? Because I think it's very common to check off the boxes and then be like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm good, I'm
I'm
done.
set. Well, I've done a lot of personal development work, Vanessa, and one of the things I hear from my mentors say, and I agree 100%, especially Tony Robbins, he says, if you're not growing, you're dying. And Dean Graciosi, if you're not growing, you're dying. And humans are only happy when we are making progress.
Okay.
So even when I reached my PhD and I graduated and I was like, okay, what's next? That's when I realized something was off. And I'll tell you what happened. The reason why I went into my own personal development work is that I realized that I was seeking validation, I was seeking success, I was seeking, look, I made it kind of thing. And I was trying to prove to myself that I was enough. And when I got to my PhD graduation and I was just kind of like dismissing it, kind of like, okay, what's next? I realized that something was absolutely off. And I realized that I needed to dig deep and go inward because this success, this more that I was looking for was really finding myself. Like who is Ginny? What is my value? And if my value is the car I drive, which was a Mercedes, the place where I live, which was a beautiful neighborhood in Baskin Ridge, the degrees that I acquire, which were four of them, if that wasn't enough, what was it that made me who I was? And if you were to strip my labels and my titles and my achievements in my career, who was I? And that inner work is what many of us don't do unless we have something major happen in our lives. In my case, my divorce in 2009, where I filed for divorce, was a pivotal moment in my life because it made me question every decision that I made up to that point. What was the source of the decision? What was my motive? And then it made me realize too that I wanted to be the better version of myself and that I wanted to be ultimately happy and that happiness will not come to me externally, that my happiness and joy was inside of me and I had to unlock it. And that's when I began this quest for this personal development. And I've been doing it since 2000, little by little. But my divorce was that pivotal, like really pushed me off the edge to be all in and begin to truly explore my spirituality, my beliefs, my needs, my value, and to own it, understanding that I was human and that I had made mistakes and that I would continue to make more mistakes, but from a place of exploration and curiosity, not from having ill intent.
Amazing. I think it's so powerful to hear you talk about divorce in such like a powerful way and like that pivotal that turning point in your life, because I have a few friends who have been divorced or are currently going through divorce, and it can you feel ashamed, you feel like you're a failure, you feel all of these negative things, which I think are not to dismiss those feelings and not to say that they're invalid, but
Hmm.
to see you view it as this positive thing where it was an opportunity to grow and reflect and do better in your life moving forward. I definitely needed to do this interview and point that out because I
Yeah.
want that for women. I don't want anyone who's going through anything difficult to stay in that sadness.
Mhm.
I think it's really important to reframe the mind, look at it through a growth mindset, through that I'm human and I made a mistake and I'm going to, do better next time. I think that's so important. And I love that, you just always talk about it that way. It's so powerful and so important. So I
Usually, when people say to, when I hear someone who says, "Oh, I'm divorced," I usually say, "Congratulations,"
yes, yes,
because it tells me a lot of things about this person. That the one thing it tells me is that they were able to zoom out and look at their life and choose joy and choose worth and choose a better life. Because I don't think that people get divorced if they are the ones who initiated to be worse off, right? Typically, people stay together in with love and compassion. Usually, there's an economic factor that makes a decision what it is.
yes,
And so, when a woman is able to make a decision to divorce, it tells me that she's has the ability to self-reflect and have self-awareness. Two, it tells me that she's financially secure. And what I mean by that is, I was the primary breadwinner in my family, and I believe that every woman needs to make her own money, because when you stay in a relationship because you want to see how it works out, it's because you truly are looking, you see value and the values that you have with your partner as, yes, we have great values together. And I don't want to quit. I don't want to leave this. Versus, I don't have, my values are not aligned with this person. We want different things. We see the world completely different, as I found out. And I need to stay because I don't have options. So just like my mom, Vanessa, who was a teacher, she was also the primary breadwinner of when she was married, and she got divorced from my dad when I was 5. My mom had choices. She didn't have to stay in an abusive marriage. She didn't have to, put up with infidelity and put up with all kinds of things because she was a teacher. And so every woman who's out there, what I do when I do coaching and my development programs that I put together for women, my goal is to really support women to reach their full earning potential. As talented, high performing women in the business world, we sometimes settle. We settle for, I have a job, I should be grateful, that's enough for me. My parents, were farmer workers or whatever whatever our background may be. And here I am with a job in corporate, and I'm being ungrateful if I'm not happy with this. And my answer to that is yes, let's be grateful for what we have. And let's not forget that we also have potential. And that's something that always drove me to strive for reaching that potential. Like to this day, I'm 55 years old. I just went to Punta Cana to celebrate it. I went with like 9 family friends and my son, who's 17. I was able to rent a boat for the 9 of us to go on this private boat ride to snorkel and just hang out and go to this natural pool in Punta Cana because I can. And having that freedom, having the ability to make your life choices from a place of love, not from a place of fear, goes a long way. And that's something that I wish for every woman that I meet, for her to be able to make her own money, to be able to support herself, support her family, provide beautiful things for her children and for her family, supporting her family. We have this sense of, helping our loved ones. My mom is the one helping me all the time because she's a warrior, she's a rock star. And so I want all of us to have that choice and not to feel that we have to stay in situations that are not serving us or our loved ones. One message that I want to leave for people, sometimes you think that you're better off staying for the kids. And I'm not advocating for divorce. Trust me, the grass is not always greener, right?
right,
Never. I've talked friends out of divorce, and I have at least 2 cases where I've done that, and thankfully because they're still together. And the one thing that I would say to every woman is, if you're staying for the kids, we are giving our children the wrong example
right,
by staying in a loveless marriage, by seeing abuse, by witnessing two people who aren't really in sync or on the same page. So you're not giving your kids, you're not doing them any favors.
right,
You're teaching them to settle. You're teaching them to adhere to a lower standard of living. And you're teaching them that it's okay to self sacrifice
right,
in a way that is not even healthy. So while I don't advocate for divorce, I do think that sometimes we make those decisions based on our kids. And every single person that I've met that comes from being a child of divorce typically says, I wish my parents had split up because they were both miserable.
Yes.
So I much rather, when my son was 3.5, I said, I rather my son sees me as a happy woman and sees his father as a happy man than to see us miserable together.
Right, right.
That is not the role model that I wanted to create for my son.
Right. I think it comes from a place of like strength, and I'm happy that you were able to, make that decision, because so many women, like you said, they're not in that position that they're able to pay rent and all the living expenses and be a mother while, independently. They
Yeah,
can't do it alone. So I
yeah,
agree, it's very important to be financially independent, and we're working on it. I feel like just by normalizing it, we're doing it. I think by you doing it, that's
mhm,
one way. I talk about it a lot on my separate podcast on Chicklet. I
mhm,
think that everyone, at least in Alpha, I see it everywhere. We're all kind of trying to empower people, empower
absolutely.
women,
Mhm.
and so, and I think that we've come a long way.
And I
Especially,
love the women in leadership series that we're doing, which is
yes,
amazing,
yes,
right? We're just bringing these powerful women who are in Fortune 500 companies who really made it, who are sending the elevator down. So
yes.
anybody who's listening to this podcast, get involved in our alpha activities because there's just so much. There's a wealth of knowledge available to all of us.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I mean, I was just talking to an Alpha member earlier today, and she was saying how she really credits Alpha to improving her mental health.
Mm.
Just being part of the chapter and being in community with like-minded people and people who encourage each other. We care about each other. I think it's super powerful. That actually brings me to my next question. How did you get
Mhm.
involved with Alpha?
You're not going to believe it. It's all about networking, and I am a huge advocate of networking. How I think women are going to continue to grow their careers and advance and claim those senior leadership seats. So I heard about Alpha through an email that I received or something like that, and then I connected on LinkedIn with Frank. What's Frank's last name?
Galindo.
Galindo. Frank is like the godfather, right? He knows everybody. And Frank we had a 15-minute cyber coffee that I invited him to. And he's like, oh, we have this series called the Women of Alpha. And oh, by the way, the conference is coming up. This was, I think, last October or September last year. And he says, oh, you have to go. So I went to the site. I looked at the dates. I cleared my calendar. And I said, I'm going. So I went. It was my first event ever. I sat at the table with Diana Quintero, like all these people that I now talk to. And I saw all the women that were speaking on the panel. I saw Alex Sanchez was on the panel from Organon and all of these women. And I just began to make connections and say hello and share my Blink card with everyone. And I just a little networking tip when I meet people, I when I get their contact information because we share our information, I usually say in my contact where I met them. So I would put Women of Alpha. And if I were to search my phone for Women of Alpha under my contacts, all of you guys pop up, right? All the people that I met that day. And so then I would reach out through LinkedIn and I would set up 15-minute cyber coffees. So one thing led to another. At that event, we were having our breakout and I got to meet Humberto because I think it was Frank who introduced me, saying that Humberto is going to be the new president. So then during the happy hour, guess who I wanted to talk to? Humberto. And also, who was our former president before Humberto?
Luis.
Luis. So Luis introduced me to Humberto, and then we started having conversations about how I could support the board, given that the former board director of board development was moving on, and they needed a new board director of board development. And I said, I'm on. I can do this. And ever since I joined in January of 2024, and the rest is history.
Amazing. I know that you support us, you empower us. I know that there are people who are going to reach out to you in the future for those 15-minute coffee chats.
Um,
Yeah, so you're obviously a huge asset to the board. And I'm curious,
thank you.
what's a goal that you have for yourself in the future?
Are you ready?
Yes.
My goal is to change the lives of more than 1 million women who have felt underestimated, who've had to claw their way to the top, and who want to create a fulfilling career in life.
Amazing.
That's my goal.
Do you have a number at where you're at now? Do you know how you're gonna get there? That seems like such a huge goal to have.
It is. It is an audacious goal, as they say, right? Well, what I can go back and I can start just looking through all of the programs that I put together for women and leaders that Fortune 500 companies enroll their women in. So the Fearless Leadership Mastermind has been running since 2020. So I have already like graduated. I believe this is my ninth cohorts that I've graduated. So each of them is 10 women. And then I do a lot of speaking at many events. I'm a transformational speaker and I support many of the women's groups at different Fortune 500. So a lot of what I am teaching and uh, focusing on through my leadership programs and talks impacts tens of thousands of women. So, for example, Verizon's Women's Network is over 10,000 women. Same thing with Merck Women's Network. And so I've impacted many, many women that I may not be able to put a number on it because I've been at their events that are streamed globally.
Right, right, right.
So I am going to come up with a way, Vanessa, to ask every single event coordinator how many people attended, and I'm going to start my tally so that I can, be more accurate about this impacting the lives of 1 million women who felt underestimated.
Make sure you add my name to that list or send me the link. I'll put my name on that list because you definitely obviously have positively impacted me today.
Thank you,
And
Vanessa.
no problem. And this brings us to our last question. This is the question that I ask all guests. What advice would you give your younger self?
Mm, wow. How young is my younger self? Is she 20? Is she 15? Is she 6?
I think the version of yourself that needed to hear advice. I think maybe if you're 5, I don't know if how much advice you really need.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
playing, you're daydreaming, I don't know. So maybe the 20-year-old, maybe she needed,
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to give advice to my 14-year-old,
okay.
and thinking about her almost brings tears to my eyes because she was so scared.
Yeah.
She was so scared. So I would tell her everything's going to be okay.
One way or another, right?
You're
One
going to be
way.
fine. Yes, you're going to meet amazing people. And just keep your faith because I always believed that God had my back. And so I would say to her, you got this. It may seem like it's impossible today, but you're going to surpass your wildest dreams. That's what I would say to her.
Amazing. Give yourself a little hug. Give 14-year-old Dr. Ginny a little hug for me since I can't hug you. You're far away.
You got it. She's receiving it. Thank you, Vanessa.
Yes, yes, I love that. That's so powerful. I think it's important that, just like you tell 14-year-old your 14-year-old self that everything's going to be okay, tell 55-year-old yourself everything's going to be okay. I think
Oh, yeah.
we can all do that, It's hard, but we're going to do it one way or another.
No matter where you find yourself today, I would say this, whether it's positive or negative, this too shall pass.
Yes.
So at the foundation of it all is gratitude. Be grateful for what you have. There's always going to be more. There's always going to be less. So this too shall pass. The hard times, the difficulties, the crunchiness, the bad boss, the bad position, the miserable outcome, that too shall pass. The high, the I'm on top of the world, the everything's going great, that this too shall pass. Therefore, enjoy the moment, be in the moment, celebrate the little things, appreciate the people in your life because at the end of the day, it's really people that it all boils down to. And no matter what, love yourself in any way that you know how and love everyone that you have around you because everyone brings something valuable to you. Everybody's there to give you something if you are willing to open your mind and your heart and receive it.
Amazing.
whether it's what to do or what not to do, right? So
One way or
just
another.
let's just be open to each other, and let's help each other. Let's not think that we're so alone. We're not alone. We are alone if we choose to be alone. So if you're feeling alone, that's what you're calling onto yourself. So open up, open yourself up to others, reach out to others, and someone will give you that the shoulder, someone will lend you their ear, and someone will lend you a hand to support you in whatever it is that you're trying to do. Do it with love, do it with care, do it with empathy, and do it because you can.
Yes, I totally agree. You have to give people an opportunity to be there for you. If you don't open up, if you're not vulnerable, if you don't share, how will they know? How will
They
they
won't.
know to call on you, to call you, to check on you, to support you? They won't
They won't.
know if you
No.
don't open up. So I think that's really valuable, and I think that's, important to note. So thank you so much for being on, Dr. Ginny. If you wanted to tell the listeners how they can reach you, how they can
Sure.
get your leadership program, now's the
Absolutely. So one of the things that I do is I try to lower the barriers of entry. So anyone who wants to learn and grow and advance in their careers have the chance to do that, whether they have the financial means to do it or not. So every 2 months or so, I am running my Fearless Leadership Masterclass. So what I would send everyone who's listening is go to my website. It's a brand new, gorgeous website, drjeannybaro.com, and go to slash events, drjeannybaro.com/events, and you can see my complimentary trainings that I offer, and as well as the other programs that I have available for organizations and for women to take their career to their potential instead of settling for what they currently have.
To new heights. Yes, I love that. Perfect. I'm looking forward to all that you do, Dr. Ginny.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for having me, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Conversaciones con Alpha New Jersey podcast. For more information on today's episode, please take a look at the episode description below. For updates, resources, and future events in the area, please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at alpha_NJ. You can also follow and subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify at Conversaciones con Alpha NJ. Gracias, and see you next month.